Hello everyone. It's been a little bit since I've done any sort of pickups videos, and earlier in the summer I did a whole bunch of videos on yard sailing, going out with my wife just about every weekend, going out to yard sales, showing you guys what I picked up, showing you guys what I went through. Did some Goodwill pickup videos, and the last thing I did though was at Too Many Games, whatever I got at that convention. I haven't done anything for a while, and I just wanted to catch you guys up, do a little bit of that, cover all of my end of summer picks that we got at yard sales, Goodwill. Primarily Goodwills around us had a one-day 50% off sale where we got a ton of stuff, and we've been really lucky with finding manga in Goodwill, which is unusual. It's actually been getting better and better as time goes on, finding more and more of it, and really cheap. The majority of the manga we picked up were, I think, 47 cents a volume, like just dirt cheap and in great condition. So a lot of great stuff, and some really interesting finds in the Goodwill near us, and the big one that we have. There's a bargain room where it's just stuff thrown into bins, things that are have been sitting on shelves and haven't been selling, or things that are just unorganized or trashy or sometimes broken, and people can go through and find a lot of clothing there, and there's like broken VHS tapes, there's game cases with the game missing, things that are just completely scratched to oblivion that are really just trash. But every once in a while, underneath all that, we'll find something good, and it's actually, that has been getting better as well. We've actually found quite a few PC games that are complete and in pretty decent condition just in that bargain room. And what's nice about that, if you have one near you, everything in there is by weight. So something like just a loose disc or a PC game just in a jewel case weighs next to nothing, so you can get the game for like 20-30 cents. It's unbelievable. Sometimes you can get some books or magazines, if you find them that aren't ripped up, for like 10 to 20 cents. Anything that's really light is next to nothing, and you can find some great things. So to get started here, some things we found, a couple books here. Wizard of Earthsea, and this is a new cover. I think this is when they did the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries on that, so I think it's a pretty recent reprint, but it's pretty cool. We don't have any of that series. We do have Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, the J.R. Tolkien version here. That was a pretty cool find. We actually found some good kids books. We've found a decent amount of Goosebumps in the past couple of months. We found, I don't know if you guys remember Wishbone at all. That was a really old kids show, like a PBS kind of educational program. Back in the early 90s, I remember watching in school, sometimes after school. Really interesting thing. We found a couple kids books for that. Again, I said we found a ton of manga, and a lot of it on that 50% off day. We did find Volume 1 of Soul Eater, one that I already have, but this one's in really good condition, so for less than $1, really couldn't pass up grabbing that. Mixed Vegetables, #1. I don't really know what this series is. If you know anything about it, let me know below. Seems pretty interesting from this first volume. You might want to check it out. Something that seems to be my kind of like pacing. We found Eternal Sabbath Volumes 4 and 5. It's another one I don't know anything about, so let me know about that one. I haven't had a chance to check these two out, so I really don't know anything about them. Didn't read them yet, but again, cheap manga. If it's something that you know you like, I mean, obviously you're going to get it, but if it's something that seems interesting for like less than $1, grab it just in case it is something you like. And if not, getting manga for less than $1, you can pretty easily make your money back reselling it some way to use bookstore or online or whatever, if it turns out you don't really enjoy it. So you really can't lose getting manga for under $1 a piece when they tend to be closer to $10 a piece, particularly in that good a condition. Recently we got some Digimon. Really like Digimon. My wife really prefers it to Pokemon, so it was really cool getting volumes 1 through 4 of the manga for that. That was a really great deal from Goodwill. A couple other here's that same exact day. One of the cool ones was we've been finding a lot of Clamp for some reason. It's been really interesting. Clamp stuff seems to be incredibly popular over here and hold its value. Cardcaptor Sakura, we found volume 6, I believe. Yeah, 6 of that so far. That one's a really cool one to pick up. I remember watching that. That was one of the few manga we got back in the day that wasn't Toonami in the sort of late 90s, very early 2000s. I think that one was Fox Kids. I think that was around the same time as Shaman King. So that was an interesting one to watch. One of the first ones I was able to watch every episode of in English, which was really cool back in the day. Didn't get a whole lot of manga. My personal favorite finds, I found Mobile Suit Gundam 0079 Volume 7 and 3. That was really cool. And my favorite Gundam series ever, Gundam Wing. We found Gundam Wing Ground Zero, and this is a standalone that takes place between the end of the series and the beginning of Endless Waltz, the movie. So this was a really cool, interesting one that I actually, after reading it, remember reading it back in the day. Not sure if maybe I owned it at some point, or I know someone else owned it. Maybe my friend Matt had it, who knows. But this was a really great find, and it was actually kind of funny because we went there one day and we were looking through the area where we find mangas, typically either shoved in with the kids' books or in with the paperbacks, or sometimes on a random shelf, but in general those are the two areas where we find it. And there was already another guy who was going through and finding the manga, and he saw us kind of looking at it, and he just, for some reason, is very awkwardly just telling us, like, oh, look what I found, and I would pull one that I found off the shelf, and he'd go, oh, I already saw that. Okay, it's nice to know, and I put it back, and it was a very, very odd encounter. And then I saw in his pile, he was showing me what he got, and this is a complete stranger, and he's sparking up this conversation, and he was showing me he had all this Gundam manga, and I couldn't believe I missed it. We got there, right after him, and that was one thing that I've really been looking for. And he had a whole stack of it, and then he pulls off the shelf, and because he kept just looking at things and showing them to me, and then putting them back on the shelf, like he was kind of helping me shop in a way. I don't know what he was trying to do, but he pulled off, and he's like, oh, look at this. Oh, that's cool. And he pulled off this Gundam Wing Ground Zero, and he said, oh, and more Gundam. And I basically grabbed it out of his hand and be like, oh, that's really, really cool, and then kept this one, kind of hoping he wouldn't add it to his Gundam pile. I don't know. It was a rather odd encounter. I don't know if he was trying to be friendly or what exactly his intentions were, but it was very strange. And he was kind of like eyeing us as we were looking at the manga. We also found the coolest thing, I think, for that 50% off sale was we found a near complete set of Berserk, all in pristine condition, perfectly good there. We have, what is it, numbers 1 through 26. We're only missing 3 in that range. So that is pretty crazy. A near complete set for that 50% off day. It was just unbelievable, just finding one little stack of 4 here, and then we go down the aisle and like, oh, there's 2 more. Go down and find, oh, there's 3 more, and by the end just having this large pile that I'm hulking around, and that was a lot of fun. We found an issue of Shonen Jump, the English release obviously there, and they had a lot of interesting kind of art books for some reason on the 50% off day. They must have gotten them all from Collector at the same time. That must be why there's so much manga in there, because it's something where you see kind of like piecemeal 1 or 2 here, not big collections. And they were kind of oddly overpriced though, especially for Goodwill. I mean, they're still much cheaper than retail and they were in perfect condition, but for Goodwill, something that is like $10 to $20 for an art book is a bit much. Thankfully, we got them all on the half-price sale day, so it wasn't too bad. I mean, this one still has its retail sticker on for $40, so getting this for less than $10 was still really good. This is for Gungrave. If you don't know what that is, it's a pretty decent anime that's actually based off of 2 much better games. They're really cool, really stylish games where if you like Devil May Cry, give them a shot. They're a great kind of anime twist on that. We got Dot Hack Analysis, which is really cool. I like Dot Hack, and this takes you through a whole lot of the beginnings of the Dot Hack franchise, talking about how the manga and the anime and the PS2 games and things connect together while showing you a whole bunch of artwork from the series. And always, as I said, we find Clamp stuff around. And we also found this really cool limited edition strategy guide to Final Fantasy X-2. And yeah, sadly it's 10-2, not 10, but it's still really awesome. And inside here, open this up, and it folds out, and you actually have this cool fold-out cover here with 2 books inside. You have the really nice complete strategy guide for 10-2. This one's really cool. It's a big, thick strategy guide, nice collector's edition. That's really nice in that sleeve. And then also one of the cool extras that comes with it is Final Fantasy X and X-2 art collection, which has a ton of artwork from both games. So that's really cool. This was a fantastic find, one of my favorites from that day. Even though it's X-2, which is one of my least favorite Final Fantasies, it was still a really, really cool find, and it does have work from 10. And we also found this old Star Wars lunchbox that is more of a reproduction in the old style rather than actually being old, but that's still really cool. I like a lot of those old-looking tin lunchboxes. They're pretty nice to have. I really enjoy them as a collector. Just they make great kind of shelf pieces. Not something I would go out of my way to get a whole bunch of, but that was something that looked pretty cool, and it looks like that old-fashioned style, which I like. Found a handful of DVDs here. We found Super Mario Brothers the movie, which is something that, it's a horrendous movie if you've ever seen it, but we found it for I think $2, completely sealed. I opened it up since then, but completely sealed for $2. Had to grab it since I didn't have it in my collection, and it feels like something you have to have, even though it's terrible. If you have a big game collection, that's kind of a movie that I feel like you should have if you find it for a couple bucks, even though it's horrendous. It's just an interesting piece of early Nintendo history. And we found first 2 volumes of Blackjack, and I knew nothing about this series, despite the fact that it's apparently incredibly popular, especially in Japan, and this is the later remake of the series. The original series was made by the creator of Astro Boy, and so far it's very fascinating. From what I've gathered, it's much darker than whatever the original series and manga was like, but I'm really enjoying it so far. It is definitely better than I've been expecting. Really enjoying that one. A lot of fun. I love the individual episodes, something I'll talk about later with that one because I'm kind of watching it right now, not quite finished. And we found 2 volumes of Gilgamesh, and the interesting thing was one of these was sealed, the other one was open but completely brand new. The disc looked like no one had touched it, and these were both found in those junk bins in that really dirty junk room. That was crazy and just perfect condition. Like I said, one of them was sealed, and that's something that is by weight when you go up to the counter, so you never know underneath all that junk. You can find all kinds of stuff in the bargain room. And speaking of bargain room finds, we found some interesting PC stuff there. I found Duke Nukem 3D for the PC, and this one is actually complete. We also found a copy of American McGee's Alice, and has both discs and everything. It's not 100% complete, but it's in working condition. I already just installed that today, actually. I looked through it just to see if it would work early in the morning. Check that one out. And also Goodwill, we found Star Wars X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter right here. This one for around $1, I think, $1.50, whatever it was. Had to grab that just because it's reminded me so much of my father-in-law. It's something that was something he started playing many years ago when this first came out, especially the multiplayer. Something that I feel like I really wanted to have in my collection just because it's an interesting connection to things he's experienced in gaming. Wanted to check that one out. We also found Duke Nukem 2. This is one of my wife's favorite old games. She prefers the original Duke Nukem. That's her absolute favorite of the series, but it was really cool to find this old PC release from Apogee of Duke Nukem 2. I also found, before a copy of StarCraft that was working. It had the CD key and everything, it was great. And I was looking for Brood War just through the pile of CDs, seeing if it was there. And initially, I found what I thought was another copy of StarCraft. It has the StarCraft back of the casing, and it had the manual of StarCraft. And I was like, alright, just another copy. You don't really need another copy of StarCraft. And it's probably scratched up. But luckily, I decided to open it up. I'm not sure why. It's not really something I was going to get or resell, but thankfully I opened it up because it was actually inside another disc of Brood War, the expansion set. And the disc works perfectly fine. It's not scratched up, so had to grab that. And probably as far as the gaming finds, one of the coolest ones was the Curse of Monkey Island, finding that complete at Goodwill. And we normally don't find a whole lot of games at Goodwill, and if we do, they're not usually PC stuff, and I'm not a huge PC collector, so it was really unusual to get this much PC stuff in just a couple of months. We've really bulked up our PC collection for those. A lot of great and old stuff too, which is really nice. And the last things for gaming we found, we ended up getting over the summer also, and this one was not from Goodwill, Sega Superstars Tennis on the DS. I have the Wii version of this, and I'm kind of enjoying the DS version just because it plays a little bit differently, and it looks and feels more like if there was a PS1 version of that same game, kind of the same thing there. And we did find, this is just a case of 007 Everything or Nothing, but this was, again, in the bargain room, so this was a few cents. And it's a complete case in perfect condition with the manual, everything fine, even if I just take it out and just use it as a replacement case for something. Great find for the bargain room. Found a Underground jam-packed demo disc for the PS1. We also found Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers for the GameCube, and this is one I have on PS2. Did not have a GameCube copy, and this one was complete, so for a good Goodwill find there. And one of my favorite action games on the PS2, Chaos Legion. I really enjoyed this one. If you like Devil May Cry, give this one a check. And I was so happy to find this one because the copy that I have actually does not have the manual. The disc is fine, everything's complete about it, does not have a manual. So this one was 100% complete, so that was a great find, really Happy to find that. And then we have found some resale stuff, and a couple of ones that we found more recently at Goodwill. Twisted Metal for the PS3. These are things that we either have a copy of or something we don't want. Good to build up our resale collection, kind of getting ready for Black Friday sales for at our local used video game store. Cool Borders 4 for the PS1. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon and Blue Rescue Team, and these are all really cheap Goodwill finds, by the way. And Animal Crossing Wild World. So it's really cool to find all of those and to find them complete for resale stuff. So we found a ton of stuff in a short period of time. I'm actually amazed what we've put together just through. The majority of this was Goodwill. Definitely check them out. You never know, you'll go through months sometimes and find one or two things, and then suddenly over the course of a month you'll find piles of stuff for dirt cheap. But you can't pass up, manga for less than $1 and near complete collections sometimes. You never know what you're going to find. Check out Goodwill, and again, like I said, check out that junk room. You never know what you're going to find building up a whole bunch of PC games, and the majority of them from that junk room. Just digging around in those piles, you'll almost always find nothing, but when you do, it's a fantastic deal for pennies on the dollar.